I'm Daniel Levine, and this is the Bio Report. ImpriMed is working to deliver on the promise of precision medicine by using a patient's live cancer cells to see how they respond to different treatment options and artificial intelligence to predict which medicines will work best. The company has had impressive results with its customers to date, but the catch is that it's initially targeted its service to the veterinary market, and it's dogs and cats that have benefited from it. The company is now working to bring its offerings to two-legged patients. We spoke to Sungwon Lim, CEO of ImpriMed, about its functional precision medicine and AI platform to match cancer patients to the best available therapy for them, its decision to roll out the service first to the veterinary market, and what it's doing now to bring its service to humans. Sungwon, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Danny. Thanks for having me here. It's my pleasure.
We're going to talk about precision medicine, ImpriMed's efforts to use AI to transform the care of people with cancer, and its decision to begin by applying this technology to treating cats and dogs. Let's start with the decision to create ImpriMed itself. You have a PhD in bioengineering sciences from Stanford. You worked in preclinical cancer drug development before that. What problems were you seeking to address when you founded ImpriMed?
Yeah, that's definitely the beginning of this company. So, as you mentioned, I actually worked in the pharmaceutical new cancer drug development space about like 10 years before this company. So I really enjoyed it. I spent 4 years in a pharmaceutical company which developed gene therapeutics, and also I did about 6 years in academia, my master's degree and PhD degree in the cancer drug development. It's really fun, and then it's really, really important issue to coming up with a new cancer drug development, and then providing inventing and providing new therapeutic options to our patients. But ironically, more and more I actually went into this space more and more. I realized that it takes so many hours, so much time and money to develop a new drugs. And there are so many people and patients who are dying of cancer every day. They don't have time to wait for new cancer drugs. So my question just came up again and again, that how can I help the patients who really need the treatment immediately? So that was actually the beginning of thinking of coming up with a precision medicine solution, trying to optimize what we currently have in our medical cabinet.
Can you explain the concept of functional precision medicine and the case for taking this approach to matching patients to the best treatments?
Yeah. So functional precision medicine is relatively a newer terminology than genomic precision medicine that we are very familiar with. If you look around for the precision medicine companies out there, there are so many companies relying on and focusing on retrieving and collecting a genetic mutation and RNA expression levels, which we call just genetic information. It's really important. I'm not saying that genetic information is not important. It is really, really valuable data, but by itself, it's not perfect. So, all the precision medicine companies, we want to predict what is actually happening inside the patient body. And then, genetic mutation is a snapshot of what is actually happening inside the cells. And it's it's pretty far from what is actually happening inside the body. So functional precision medicine is a concept that's, keeping the patient's own cancer cells alive outside of the body, and then measure the functional characteristics rather than just the genetic information, more focusing on cellular information, and then which is closer to what is actually happening inside the body. So there are more and more emerging companies and academic institutions who are focusing on the functional precision medicine, which is known to be more accurately predicting the clinical outcome inside the body.
Well, how does this compare to the traditional way a physician might select treatments for a patient?
We really appreciate all the physicians. They try their best to come up with the best treatment regimen for their individual patients. But most of the time, and then traditionally, it has been heavily relying on the physician's experiences, and then many physicians actually look very carefully into the newer publication and some kind of clinical trial results. But those are so even with all these great efforts, we have to administer the drug inside the patient body, and we have to go through the wait and see if this treatment actually works inside the body or not. So this kind of precision medicine, the main purpose of this is that, rather than just injecting the drugs into the body before this treatment decision, we really want to predict which drug works best for this patient, individual cancer patients. So try to streamline the treatment regimen, excluding out the non-effective treatment, and then coming up with the most effective treatment.
ImpriMed has started with canine and then feline care. Why is that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And many people actually ask me about this question, especially the investors. So to be transparent with you, we started with a human application. Me and my co-founder, CTO, Professor Jiamin Ku, we both of us are from human space, human cancer drug and human protein engineering, all these kind of like human applications. So it was very natural for us to come up with this, the human application for this precision medicine company. But it turns out that it takes us so much effort and time to receive a patient clinical sample. As I mentioned, ImpriMed is a functional precision medicine company which trying to save a patient's own live cancer cells. And to develop those technology, we have to receive human clinical samples from the hospitals. But it was really hard, and even more difficult to receive the patient's follow-up medical charts after the treatment. So we really want to predict, and then that's why we are using the live cell technology and then artificial intelligence combination. But it was just a hypothesis before we actually developed the technology. We need the clinical sample, and we need the patient medical charts, the follow-up medical charts, to see whether our prediction is correct or wrong. So to do that, we decide to start with our dogs and cats, who are sadly they live a shorter lifetime, about like 1/7. But at the same time, that means that their cell cycle is a lot faster than humans. And then when they get cancer, it's 7x or 8x faster than for the tumor progression is 7x or 8x faster than humans. And then even more importantly for us, the drug response is a lot faster than human cancer cells. So, for example, if we provide our reports to the doctor, the human cancer doctors, it takes 2 or 3 months to get to get to know that whether our prediction was correct or wrong. But for dogs and cats, it only takes like, next week we can know that if our prediction was correct or wrong. So it's that much faster. So this kind of, AI development, and then our prediction validation, and then the technology improvement, this kind of, to develop AI, we have to, run this cycle again and again, development, validation, and then improvement. So we were able to do this a lot faster than human cancer field. And then also there are a lot more cancer patients in dogs and cats than humans.
How does ImpriMed's technology compare to other precision medicine approaches in cancer that are being used today?
Yeah, so we founded our company in 2017. And then back to that time, Jamin and I, we co-founded ImpriMed with a hypothesis that, rather than just genetic information, if we can combine the cellular information, live cell-based cellular information, and AI together, we can do a lot more accurate prediction of what is actually happening inside the body. So that was a hypothesis, and then now it is not a hypothesis anymore. We have been proving in our dogs and cats that using this technology can improve the patient's lifetime a lot longer. And then we are expanding to the human side. So the great differentiating factor is that still there are only a few companies out there who are combining live cell and an artificial intelligence together. And then second, we are the company who actually commercialized this functional precision medicine service in the real world market and then generating the revenue. So we have a clinical evidence.
AI is generally dependent on accessing large data sets. I imagine there's a lot more data available on human cancers than canine or feline cancers. Is that the case? And how do you get adequate data to train your AI?
Yeah, that's a great point. You're correct. And when we started our dogs and cats, there was no company out there who trying to personalize or individualize this cancer. So there was no kind of precision medicine concept in dog and cat cancer treatment. So as you said, definitely we have a lot more data in human because precision medicine is not a new concept in the human cancer treatment. So, but at the same time, for a human application, it involves a lot of time and efforts to go through the regulatory pathway, and then reimbursement issues. So there are limitations. There are a lot more data in the human space and the human hospitals, but they are usually limited to that one institution, and then that is not shared with the outside of the hospital. So there are pros and cons for the human data sets and then canine and feline cancer data set. So for dogs and cats, for pet cancer treatment, we had to generate our own data, but it is relatively a lot easier under the consent form signed by the pet parents and then the hospital consent form signed. After that, we can actually receive a lot more easily. We were able to receive the medical charts. For human side, it has a lot of the bar is very high. But once we actually go over the bar, and then once we start to collaborate with hospitals and medical oncologists, it's definitely there are a lot more abundance of data set in the human space.
Well, what have you done to validate this system?
So for precision medicine companies, the validation means that to see whether our prediction is correct or wrong. So the only validation we can do is that we predict, and to see if our prediction is correct in after the drug injection into the patient body. So for example, for our dog canine cancer patients, we typically approach the doctors. We send out the report, and then we approach the doctors after 3 or 4 months later, and even like 1 year later, to ask for the patient medical chart to see which drug was actually selected by the doctor, and then what were the clinical outcomes, and to compare with our original the prediction. So we have been doing this again and again for the last 7 years, and then recently in February this year, we published our paper to show that prospective the clinical study shows that our canine lymphoma patients who received our the reports, and then the doctor who followed our prediction reports by selecting the top 3 to 5 drugs for the treatment, those patients showed a 3 times longer survival than the patients who were not treated with our top ranked drugs. So we and then also for human space, we also doing this very similarly. We receive a sample from the hospital, we make our prediction, and then wait until doctors actually share the actual clinical outcome data with us. And then we do the comparison to validate and then improve again and again to increase the correlation.
How broad a set of cancers is this being applied to today?
We are currently focusing on hematological the malignancy, which is the blood cancers only. So for pets, we are focusing on dog lymphoma and leukemia, cat lymphoma and leukemia, and then we're expanding to mast cell tumor these days. For humans, we are currently also focusing on the blood cancers. So the major 3 top blood cancers, multiple myeloma, lymphoma, and leukemia, those are the cancers that we are covering right now.
And can anything be said at this point in terms of outcomes, how it either saves money or improves outcomes for the patient?
Yeah, as I just said, for dogs, especially for dog lymphoma patients, for relapsed B-cell lymphoma patients, we proved that we can expand the patient's lifetime 3 times longer than the patients who did not use our service or used our service in they did not follow the top ranked drugs. And then we are currently analyzing our cost savings right now, but it's kind of like the interesting because if we extend our lifetime, pet parents, they have to spend more time to treat and then monitor and then follow up all these kind of things. But if we can calculate the lifetime adjusted the cost, we are expecting to see that we can significantly decrease the cost for the treatment for lifetime extension.
I know some people these days have pet insurance, but I imagine this is an out-of-pocket expense for most people who are using it. In pricing your service, how price sensitive do you need to be?
Yeah, I mean, the pricing is definitely one of the important things for our commercialization, because as you just mentioned, most of the pet parents, they spend out of pocket. So thankfully, we are being covered by some of the pet insurance, the cancer plans, but not too many people are actually pay for the pet insurances. So I know that it's increasing trend to use the pet insurance, but pay for the pet insurance, but still there are not that many percentage. So it is very important that our pricing model is we charge per service to hospitals, and the hospitals add their own margin to the pet parents. So if we increase too high our price to hospital, that means that it's going to be like crazily high for the pet owners. So we now balanced out that we actually did some kind of survey, and then we know we can actually decrease our cost, the production cost. So we kind of balance out for that, and we continuously try to persuade the hospitals not to add too much margin.
Well, do pricing decisions made for the veterinary care market impact your eventual pricing for the human market in any way?
Um, I don't think so, but because the expectation and then the reimbursement and healthcare system is completely different between two markets. But I can say that the efforts that we actually put to decrease our production cost and service cost in dog and cat cancer, the precision medicine, that actually helped us to optimize our price for the human space.
And how did the regulatory hurdles compare to applying your platform from the veterinary to the human markets?
Yeah, I mean, it's always the big question, the different healthcare system between these two species. So for veterinary space, there are two important things for the healthcare system. The first is the FDA regulation or HIPAA regulation or CLIA certificate, those kind of regulatory pathway. And then the second one is a reimbursement issue. So we just covered the reimbursement issue that's on the pet cancer patients. There are many pet insurance companies, but not that many. The pet owners are actually pay for the pet insurance. But when we talk about the hurdle, so if I can just say what is the hurdle to commercialize a service? So for our service, precision medicine service for dogs and cats, we are bypassing the current regulatory pathway from the USDA or the FDA. We actually received the official letters from the FDA and USDA that the current regulatory pathway does not regulate the precision medicine services like ours. And then, of course, the reimbursement issue is not a hurdle to commercialize the service for dogs and cats. But human side, definitely, we have to go through the FDA and after regulation, and then if we want to get the reimbursement code, we want to talk to the insurance companies too. But overall, I really want to emphasize that we are not the pharmaceutical companies who develop new cancer drugs and who has to test the new drug compound inside the patient body. We are a precision medicine company who are trying to optimize what we currently have in our medical toolbox approved by FDA. So there are different regulatory pathways even for the animal space. The animal pharmaceutical companies, they have to go through the FDA or USDA regulation.
I imagine starting with the veterinary care market is an opportunity to turn on revenue streams, but I'm wondering, what does this do to advance your efforts to bring this technology to humans? Does it translate in any way, or does it require a ground-up approach when using human data?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the exciting parts, that we can transfer our technology to the human space from animals. Again, our company is based on the live cell plus AI platform. So first, we develop our live cell, the special media that keeps the dog lymphoma patients' cancer cells alive after we take the cancer cells taken out of the body. And then that special media was applied for the feline lymphoma and leukemia patients beautifully. And then we actually tried the special media, this live cell technology, to human space, especially for human blood cancers, lymphoma, leukemia, and multiple myeloma. And then, it actually is just applied beautifully to the human blood cancer cells. So this live cell technology, there was a zero time to develop when we transfer from animal to human side. Before the artificial intelligence, AI algorithm part, you can imagine that in human space, we have a different, antigen expression profile, and then different data sets, and then definitely a larger that data set, as you mentioned. So we had to develop our AI model from the scratch, but we already have our knowledge and experiences from animal space AI development. So those were actually the approach and the know-how actually were applied to the human space when we develop our AI. So it took 3 years to develop our preliminary AI model in animal space, but in the human space, it took 3.5 months to get our first AI model.
You recently announced plans to expand to human cancers. What indications are you initially focusing on, and how are you prioritizing the indications you'll pursue?
Yeah, I mean, we had our success in animal blood cancers. So definitely for human space, we have been focusing on the blood cancers first. Again, like lymphoma, leukemia, and the multiple myeloma. So we actually, in South Korea, we have our R&D center in South Korea. And we last Friday, we launched our first human precision medicine service for human acute myeloid leukemia, human AML patients. And then we are planning to launch our software as a medical device, SMD products in Q1 next year for multiple myeloma, newly diagnosed multiple myeloma patients. And then we're going to expand to lymphoma. And then we are planning to expand to our autoimmune diseases, which is related to, the blood cells and immune cells.
And what's the business model? How do you work with veterinary oncologists and clinics?
So we charge per service. So when doctors see a lymphoma or leukemia patient, explain about the cancer, and then they actually share that, introduce our service to pet owners. There is a service called ImpriMed, and then if this service can predict which drug works best for your dog, would you want to use it? And then if the pet owner says yes, and then doctors take out some sample using a fine needle aspiration, and then send the sample to our centralized lab in Mountain View, and then we run our assay, and then we return the prediction report to the doctors in 6 days. So we charge for this prediction report. So we charge per service, and then for some kind of like high volume hospitals, we are thinking of we are evaluating whether the subscription model is proper.
And what's been the reception from the veterinary community to your precision medicine approach?
It's actually, it's being well received. So we always go to the Veterinary Cancer Society meeting, the annual meeting in October or November every year, and that's the biggest conference for Veterinary Cancer Society in the U.S. And then there are many veterinary oncologists from many different countries, and when we have been a diamond sponsor for that event, and then whenever we attend the meeting, we always announce and then share the new the product development and then service development, and then the R&D results, and then the paper publications, all these kind of things. So doctors really appreciate that we continuously share this scientific and clinical evidences with the doctors, and continuously improving our service quality. So, just based on that, we are achieving more than 2x higher revenue than the last year.
And are you going to need a different business model when you move to the human market?
The product will be a little bit different, somewhat different. So definitely we continue to use our live cell technologies so to make a prediction. But there are some cases I briefly mentioned about the newly diagnosed multiple myeloma for human. For those patients, we actually developed the SMD product, software as a medical device, which just solely the AI product without the live cells. So for those, we are going to integrate into the hospital system, and then that can be a subscription model or some and then maybe we can go with this charge per service. But definitely the payer will be the different because of the insurance situation in the pet market and then the human cancer market are different.
Is there some timing for when you're expecting to roll this out for the human market?
So we started our first human product last Friday in South Korea, and early next year we're expanding to another indication in blood cancers, and then later next year we are going to transfer those technologies and to the US, and we already started to prepare for the regulatory pathway in the US using those, especially for the blood cancer patients.
The company raised $23 million at the end of 2023. How far will existing cash take you, and what's the plan for raising additional capital?
Yeah, that's an investor question. So we recently had our board meeting to review Q3 and then plan for the Q4. And then back that time, so I analyzed the data, and then without any revenue, our runway is 28 months. So definitely we are generating revenue, so it's going to be longer than that. So that's why we are planning to raise our Series B round probably around the early 2026.
And how do you see AI impacting the broader field of oncology in the coming years?
You can actually just Google AI cancer or AI and oncology. You will see an extensive amount of information from there. So there are so many companies now integrating the AI into their technology. And then, so if we can divide into diagnosis and then the treatment, there are a lot more AI-based cancer diagnosis companies out there based on the images and some kind of biological markers. And those are very important to make a early detection of cancer. And then the companies like ours who are trying to improve the treatment regimen selection, there are more and more companies you can see using the AI to analyze genetic information or cellular information like ours, and trying to combine all these the other biomarkers together. So to me, especially for machine learning algorithm in AI, this approach is definitely is superior than the human brain to digest the complex the information, and then it can come up with the accurate prediction, even using an unprecedented biomarker the utilization. So I think the machine learning algorithm especially is doing a crucial role in the oncology space right now, and will do a lot better and a lot more.
Sungwon Lim, CEO of ImpriMed. Sungwon, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. The Bio Report is a production of the Levine Media Group. To automatically download this podcast each week, subscribe to our RSS feed or through iTunes or other podcast manager. To join our mailing list, go to levinemediagroup.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line or are interested in sponsoring this podcast, send an email to danny@levinemediagroup.com. Special thanks to Jonah Levine, who composed our theme music, and the Jonah Levine Collective, which performs it.